The alien city was filled with noise, flashing lights, and the sound of angry voices. Thousands of alien citizens gathered around the giant stone court known as the Circle of Judgment. At the center stood a young alien girl, weak, bruised, and stripped of her clothes. Her name was Vaela. She was only 19 years old, with soft blue skin and large silver eyes that once showed kindness. But today, her eyes were full of fear. Hands were tied behind her back. Her legs were shaking. She was forced to crawl on the cold stone ground in front of the crowd. The aliens laughed and shouted at her. Some threw rotten food. Others cursed. Her name, the court announcer shouted through a loudspeaker. Vaela, the traitor. She has broken the sacred code. She deserves shame. But what no one knew was that Vaela was innocent. She had tried to stop something evil and experiment on helpless alien children. The leaders called her a liar. They blamed her. Now she was being punished in front of everyone, made to crawl like an animal through the court. This was not justice. This was cruelty. Far away from the crowd, hidden behind a tall pillar, stood Captain Raynor, a human soldier from Earth. He was dressed in dark armor, with a helmet in his hands. His face was serious. His eyes were cold, but angry. He had been sent to this planet for peace talks between humans and the alien empire. He was not supposed to interfere with local matters. His orders were clear: observe only. But what he saw made his blood boil. He watched as the alien girl tried to crawl, her knees bleeding, her back covered with whip marks. He clenched his fists. This is not peace, he whispered to himself. This is madness. The alien guards stood around the circle, armed with electric whips and plasma rifles. No one dared to speak against them. No one dared to help her. Suddenly, a child from the crowd threw a sharp stone at Vaela's shoulder. She cried out in pain and fell to the ground, unable to move. The crowd laughed again. Captain Raynor took a step forward, but stopped. He looked up at the sky. He knew Earth's satellites were watching. If he made a move, there would be consequences. Political problems, maybe even war. But how could he stay silent? In his heart, he remembered his sister years ago, back on Earth. She had been bullied in school, humiliated, and no one helped her. That pain had never left him. Watching Vaela now, it felt the same. Raynor whispered, "Not again." "Not this time," as the announcer shouted. "Let her crawl the final circle." Vaela tried to lift herself. Her arms shook, tears mixed with dirt. But before she could move, something happened. A loud metallic sound echoed through the court. Clang, clang, clang. Everyone turned. Raynor stepped into the light, wearing his full human armor. He walked slowly, but with power. His boots struck the stone floor like thunder. The crowd went silent. The alien guards raised their weapons. "Stop. This is not your business, human." Raynor didn't listen. He walked straight to the center of the circle. The guards moved in, but he raised one hand. A tiny blue light blinked on his glove. A signal. One move against him would alert Earth Command. The guards froze. Raynor knelt beside Vaela. She looked up, confused and scared. He gently wrapped his long black cloak around her and lifted her into his arms. The crowd gasped. The announcer screamed, "He cannot do this. He will start a war." But Raynor just looked at them all and said in a calm, deep voice, "Then, maybe. You need one?" Without another word, he turned and walked out of the circle, carrying Vaela like a hero from old stories. The guards didn't move. The crowd stayed silent. In that moment, everything changed. No one had ever defied the court. No one had dared to break the sacred law. But today, human had done what no alien dared to do. He stood up against shame. He stood up for someone broken, and he didn't care about the rules. Captain Raynor walked quickly through the narrow back streets of the alien city, holding Vela tightly in his arms. She was light as a feather, her body cold and shaking. His dark cloak covered her, hiding her torn skin and deep wounds. Every step echoed with purpose. He had broken the rules. Now he had to face the cost. Behind him, the court was in chaos. Soldiers shouted into radios. Leaders argued. No one knew what to do. A human soldier had stepped into their law. It had never happened before. Rainer moved carefully until he reached an old building with metal doors and broken lights. He kicked open the door and stepped inside. Dust covered the room. It was once a medical clinic, but now forgotten by the city. He placed Vela gently on a soft couch and knelt beside her. She was still half conscious, breathing slowly. Her skin was covered in bruises, her knees bleeding. Rainer looked at her face. She looked so young, too young to suffer like this. He took out a small Earth-made med kit from his belt. Slowly, he cleaned her wounds, applied healing gel, and wrapped bandages around her legs and arms. She didn't speak, but a tear rolled down her cheek. "You're safe now," Rainer said in a quiet voice. "I won't let them touch you again." Psst. Vela's eyes opened slightly. Her voice was weak. Why are you helping me?" Rainer didn't answer right away. He sat back and stared at the cracked wall across the room. His memories returned, dark memories he had buried deep inside. Years ago, when Rainer was just a boy on Earth, his sister had been punished in school for something she didn't do. The teachers had turned away. The crowd had laughed. And Rainer, too small to fight, had done nothing that day. He promised himself, never again. He looked back at Vela. "Because no one helped my sister," he finally said. "I was too late to protect her, but not you." Vela blinked slowly, trying to stay awake. Her voice trembled. "They called me a traitor, but I only told the truth." Rainer leaned forward. "What truth?" She took a deep breath. "The leaders were testing memory wipe tech on orphan children. They said it was for safety, but it was to control them. I found the files. I tried to tell the elders. They called me a liar, a Kana." Her voice cracked. Rainer's eyes narrowed. "So this wasn't just public punishment. This was a cover-up." "Believe you," he said. VAE looked at him, surprised. "Why?" "'Cause only people who speak the truth are punished like that." He stood up and walked to the window. The streets outside were quiet, but he could see patrol ships flying low. The government would search for him soon. He tapped the side of his helmet. His command, "This is Captain Rainer. We have a situation." A voice crackled in his ear. "You interfered with local authority, Rainer. That's a breach of protocol." "I don't care," he said. "Hey, this girl has evidence of human rights abuse, okay? Experiments on children. We stay silent, we're no better than them." There was a pause on the other end. "Do you have proof?" Rainer looked back at Vela. "She does. We need extraction. We'll discuss this." "Stay low," the voice replied before going silent. Rainer removed his helmet and sat down beside Vela again. He handed her a bottle of water. "Oh, we're not done yet. They'll come for us. First, we'll expose the truth." Vela smiled faintly. "I thought humans were cold and heartless." Rainer gave a small smile. "We can be, but not all of us." For a moment, there was silence. The two sat together in the broken clinic, one a soldier from Earth, the other a shamed alien girl. But in that moment, they were the same two souls, standing against injustice. Outside, the skies grew darker. The alien leaders had seen the broadcast. Rainer's defiance had gone viral now. They were preparing their next move. The alien city didn't sleep that night. News of the humans' bold act spread like fire. Every screen in the city showed the moment. A human soldier stepping into the sacred court, picking up the punished girl, and walking away without fear. Some aliens were shocked. Some were angry. Others whispered in secret places. Maybe she told the truth. Inside the abandoned clinic, Captain Raynor checked his weapons while Vela rested. Her strength was returning, but her body still hurt. Her face looked tired, but her eyes were sharper now. She had hope against something she thought she'd lost forever. Raynor watched the window carefully. Outside, search drones flew through the streets. He knew they were hunting him. Vela sat up slowly. "They'll kill you for this, for helping me." Raynor smiled, but there was no fear in his eyes. "Let them try." She looked at him closely. "Why are you not afraid?" Raynor replied softly. "Because I've seen worse things than death." Suddenly, a loud sound echoed through the streets. A voice through a drone speaker. "Attention, citizen. The human criminal and the traitor girl are to be captured alive. It's big reward for information. You have 1 hour to turn them in." Vela's eyes widened. "They called you a criminal." Raynor laughed once. "That's new." He grabbed his helmet and checked the med kit again. He handed Vela a small device. "Do you still have the files? The ones that prove what they were doing?" She nodded. "Yes, I hid them in the city net, locked behind my ID code." "We'll need them," he said. "That's our weapon now." Suddenly, a loud bang hit the metal doors downstairs. Ground shook. "They found us," Raynor whispered. He stood up and pulled Vela behind a wall. "Stay quiet. Stay down." More banging, then shouting. Alien guards in black armor began to break the door. Raynor counted the seconds. 3, 2, 1. The door exploded open. The first soldier stepped in, but before he could move, Raynor fired a stun grenade. It lit up the room with blue energy. 2 guards fell. Raynor ran forward like a storm, punching one, kicking another, and pulling Vela behind him. They moved fast, climbing the back stairs. Outside, the sky was red with warning lights. Patrol ships flew above the buildings. Raynor saw a stolen hoverbike hidden behind a dumpster. "That'll do," he said. He helped Vela on the back seat and jumped in front. "Hold on tight," he shouted. The bike roared to life, floating above the street. A guard shouted, "Stop, surrender now." Raynor turned the bike sharply and shot into the air, speeding through the city. Guards followed on flying drones. Energy blasts flew past them. Vela screamed and held Raynor tightly. "Where are we going?" she yelled. "To someone who still believes in truth," Raynor replied. They zoomed through tunnels, past light towers, and flew over city walls. It was like racing through fire. The whole city was chasing them. Raynor contacted Earth Command again. Still no response. A voice came finally. "We see the footage. You've made quite the mess, Captain." Raynor growled. "This isn't just politics anymore. This is a war on truth." "Understood. Sending coordinates for a safe house. Get there alive." The voice vanished. Raynor turned sharply, dodging another plasma blast. He flew into a dark alley and shut the bike down. He helped Vela off and ran toward a metal hatch in the ground. With quick hands, he entered the Earth code. The hatch opened. A hidden elevator took them deep underground. Vela looked around, confused. "What is this place?" Raynor answered. "A place Earth uses for spies. Now it's our hiding spot." Inside, the walls were covered with maps, wires, and old machines. There was a small bed and a table. Vela sat down, breathing hard. "Why are you risking your life?" Raynor sat across from her. His voice was low, because sometimes one small action changes everything. He handed her a tablet. "Show me the files. Let's expose the truth." Vela opened the files. Videos, reports, photos of children in labs. Horrible things. Raynor's eyes darkened. This will destroy them." Vela looked at him with hope. "Will you help me finish what I started?" Raynor nodded slowly. "Yes, but we need the world to see this." We need to show everyone what they tried to hide. Outside, more patrols searched the city, but deep underground, 2 souls, 1 human, 1 alien, began a quiet war of truth, deep under the alien city. In a hidden Earth safe house, Captain Raynor and Vela stared at the screen. The stolen files were open in front of them. Every document, every video, every report showed the truth of the alien government was using orphan children for secret experiments. Raynor's jaw tightened. This is enough to break their power. Vela nodded. But we must get it to the Earth Embassy. If they reach us first, they'll erase everything, including us. Above ground, red sirens lit the sky. Patrol drones flew across every district. Checkpoints were set up on roads, bridges, and rooftops. Every screen in the city showed the same message. Wanted, human, fugitive, and traitor girl. Reward, 10,000 credits. Raynor stood up and pulled on his armor. We move now. Kayla looked at him, nervous. How will we get past the guards? He smiled a little. Let's just say, humans are good at escaping. They left the safe house, using a hidden tunnel that led to the city's lower sector, a place filled with shadows, smoke, and loud machines. Here, no one asked questions. No one followed laws. Raynor scanned the area. I used to run missions here during the last peace war. Nothing has changed. They moved fast through the alleys. Raynor wore a long brown cloak. Vela walked beside him, dressed in old worker clothes. She hid the data device in a small pouch tied to her side. They passed drunk aliens, broken bots, and flickering neon signs. The stench of oil and smoke was strong, but it helped them stay unseen. Just when they reached the outer road to the spaceport, they saw them 4 armed guards blocking the way. Raynor pulled Vela behind a wall. We need to get through. Vela whispered, can we fight? Raynor shook his head. No, too many eyes. We need a distraction. He looked around and spotted a stack of old gas tanks. With careful aim, he fired a small energy bolt. Boom. The tanks exploded in fire. The guards turned their heads in shock. The crowd screamed and ran. Now, Raynor shouted. He grabbed Vela's hand and ran through the chaos. Smoke covered their escape. Alarms rang out behind them. They reached the spaceport gate just as lockdown began. A giant shield covered the city sky. Ships were grounded. Nothing could fly out. Vela gasped. We're trapped. Raynor looked at the large control tower at the center. Not yet. Ago. He remembered a secret from years ago. A backup tunnel under the spaceport led to the Earth Embassy sector. Raynor found the tunnel gate near an old service station. It was locked with alien tech. Vela stepped forward. Let me try. She placed her hand on the scanner. Her blood still held access from when she worked as a junior tech. Click. The door opened. They moved into the dark tunnel, running through wet floors and low ceilings. The lights flickered. Dust filled the air. Behind them, security bots entered the tunnel. They're coming, Vela cried. Raynor turned, pulled out a stun mine, and tossed it behind them. Zap. Blue light flashed. The bots fell. They kept running. At the end of the tunnel was a tall gate with the Earth flag above it, but 2 alien soldiers were guarding it. Raynor looked at Vela. Time for one last run. He stepped into the open and raised his hands. Hey, you want me? I'm right here. The guards raised their rifles and ran toward him. Vela took the chance and sprinted toward the gate. Raynor ducked and rolled, dodging blasts. He fired once, hit one guard's leg. The other turned to him. Vela reached the gate and slammed the alert button. WEOO-WEEE-WEEOO. Earth guards inside responded instantly. The gate opened. Vela waved. This way. Raynor ran back as fast as he could. The alien guard fired again, just missing his head. Raynor jumped through the gate. Earth soldiers closed it behind him. The alien guard hit the shield wall and bounced back safe inside the Earth sector. Raynor dropped to one knee, breathing hard. Vela fell beside him, smiling through tears. "We made it," she whispered. Raynor looked at the Earth commander. "We have proof. Real proof." Vela handed over the device. "Everything is in here." The commander took it. His eyes went wide. This will destroy their whole system." Raynor looked at Vela with pride. She risked her life for the truth. Vela smiled softly. "And you risked yours for me?" Okay. They sat together, side by side, while the Earth staff prepared to release the files across the galaxy outside. The city still burned with lies, but inside the Earth compound, truth was finally free. Inside the safety of the Earth embassy, the lights were calm, the air cool, and the noise of the alien city was far away. But Captain Raynor knew the real storm was just beginning. Beside him sat Vela, her hands folded, her eyes watching the screen as Earth's officials worked quickly. The data she had risked her life to protect was now being opened, file by file, image by image. The room was filled with silence, not because of fear, but because of shock. Earth Commander Briggs leaned forward. "Are these real?" Raynor nodded. "Every single one. Video footage, medical reports, lab experiments, all done on orphaned alien children, all hidden by their leaders." Vela's voice was low but steady. "They said I lied, but I saw it with my own eyes. I saw the children screaming. I saw the doctors laughing." A woman beside Commander Briggs gasped as a video played. Small alien children strapped to cold tables, memory pulses being forced into their minds. Briggs stood up. "This changes everything." Raynor crossed his arms. "Then let's make sure the galaxy sees it." Meanwhile, deep in the alien capital, the High Council gathered in secret. Panic spread through the chambers. "The human has crossed a line." One elder shouted. "He is protected by Earth. We cannot touch him," another said. "But the girl, the traitor, ... she still lives." At the center of the room stood Elder Varun, the one who had ordered Vela's punishment. His face was hard. "Then we silence her again. If the people believe her, the Empire will fall." "But the files are real," someone said. Varun slammed the table. "Then we tell them the files are fake, okay? We tell them the human created them." Fear filled the room. Lies were easier than truth. But deep down, many knew the truth was spreading fast. Back at the Earth Embassy, Vela stood in front of a camera. Her hands were shaking, but she didn't hide. Raynor stood behind the camera, silent but proud. The red light blinked. Vela began to speak. "My name is Vela, born in the lower districts of the capital. I was once a loyal citizen, a student, and a believer in our leaders. But then I saw something I could not forget." She paused, breathed in, and continued. "I found the truth that our leaders were testing dangerous machines on lost and forgotten children. They were erasing memories, stealing minds. When I tried to report it, they beat me. They shamed me. They made me crawl in front of the city." Tears ran down her cheeks. "But I am not ashamed anymore, because someone believed me. A human. Stranger. He picked me up when my own people left me in the dirt." She looked straight into the camera. "I speak now, not for revenge, but for justice, for the children, for truth, for those who cannot speak." The message ended. Briggs turned to Raynor. "We'll broadcast it to all planets in the treaty system." Raynor smiled. "Do it. Within hours." Vela's message reached every screen in the alien empire, from shining towers to poor villages. People stopped. They listened. They watched. Some cried. Others shouted in anger. Others simply whispered. She told the truth. Small protests started near schools. Doctors began to ask questions. Even soldiers paused at their posts. One mother held her child close and said, "We were wrong about her." Back at the Earth base, Vela sat quietly on a bench. Raynor brought her a warm drink. "You did it?" he said. "No," she replied. "We did it." Raynor sat beside her. "I have something to tell you," he said. "Something I've never told anyone." Vela looked at him with curious eyes. "Many years ago, my sister was taken. It's not by aliens, but by humans. Our own kind. She was part of a secret program. They wiped her memory. She forgot everything, even me." Vela was silent. "I tried to stop them. I failed. But when I saw you on that floor, crawling through that court, it felt the same. I couldn't fail again." Vela reached out and touched his hand gently. "You didn't." They sat together, not as human and alien, but as two people who knew the pain of silence and the power of standing up. In the darkness of power, truth had begun to shine, and it all started when a human refused to look away. The Grand Hall of Justice, once a symbol of power and fear, now stood silent. Crowds gathered outside its glowing crystal walls. Banners waved. Voices rose. For the first time in years, people were not shouting orders, they were demanding truth. Inside, the Alien High Council prepared for what they thought would never happen. A trial against their own leaders. And at the center of it all stood Vela, the girl they had once stripped and shamed. This time, she was not alone. Captain Raynor walked beside her, dressed in Earth's military uniform, calm and fearless. He carried a small device in his hand, the data that started it all. Vela's hands didn't shake anymore. Her head was held high. She whispered to Raynor, "I never thought I would walk here again. Not like this." Raynor smiled. "You walked through fire. Now you walk with purpose." The high judges entered the court. Their faces were serious, their robes heavy with old power. The chief judge's voice echoed. His hearing would decide if Elder Varun and others committed crimes against the people. The evidence will be presented now. Raynor stepped forward. "We have proof of secret experiments on orphan children. Proof of memory wiping. Proof that Vela was punished, not for lying, but for trying to save lives." The room went silent. Raynor pressed the button. A screen lit up above the court, showing the hidden files. Videos of children in pain, scientists laughing, signed orders from Elder Varun. Gasps filled the hall. Varun, seated at the defense table, stood up angrily. "These files are fake, human lies. This is an attack on our traditions." But another judge spoke sharply. "Silence. The files carry your voice, your orders, your seal." Vela walked forward. Her voice was calm. "You made me crawl through the court. You said I was unworthy. But I am not the one who hurt our people." "Why?" Varun's face turned pale. Another voice came from the crowd. "Okay." Then another. "She speaks the truth." The crowd outside began to cheer, but not everyone agreed. Two guards stepped forward, weapons raised. "This trial is a joke," one of them said. "We should arrest the human and the girl now." Raynor moved fast. He grabbed his sidearm, aimed at the floor between them, and fired a warning shot. The sound echoed like thunder. "Try it," he said coldly, "and Earth will respond." The guards froze. The chief judge raised his hand. "Enough. This court will continue under law, not threats." The trial continued for hours. More witnesses came forward. A doctor admitted guilt, crying in shame. A technician showed logs of memory wipes. One old nurse collapsed, sobbing. "I thought it was for the greater good." And then came the final moment. The judges stood, The court has reviewed the evidence. Elder Varuan and his allies are guilty of crimes against children, abuse of power, and false punishment of an innocent citizen. Vela's breath caught. In her throat, Raina whispered, "It's done." The chief judge continued, "They will be removed from power and sentenced under the people's law." Gasps, cheers. Some cried. Some looked stunned. Elder Varuan tried to speak, but the guards now stood against him. He was taken away in silence. Outside, the crowd exploded with emotion. Vela and Rainer stepped out of the court. People surrounded them, but not with hate, with respect. One elder placed a golden ash around Vela's shoulders. "You reminded us what courage looks like," he said. Rainer watched quietly, a small smile on his face. A young child ran up to Vela and hugged her tightly. "Thank you for saving the others." Vela knelt and hugged the child back. Later that night, Vela and Rainer stood on a rooftop, watching the city lights. "What now?" she asked softly. Rainer looked up at the stars. "Now, you help rebuild. And you?" she asked. He chuckled. "I'll be in trouble with Earth Command for a while." But it was worth it. Vela looked at him with deep gratitude. "You changed everything." Rainer shook his head. "No, you did. I just refused to look away." She smiled. Finally, at peace, the trial was over. The shame had turned into strength. The girl they tried to break stood as a symbol of truth, and the human who broke the rules stood beside her not as a hero, but as a friend who believed when no one else did. A soft wind moved through the capital city. The air was different now, lighter, calmer. The dark weight that once covered the people was gone. In its place was something rare, hope, high above the city. In the same court where she was once shamed, Vela now stood dressed in white robes with golden symbols of truth stitched into the fabric. Her shoulders were no longer weak, her eyes no longer filled with fear. Crowds gathered again in the court of judgment. But this time, they were not there to see punishment. They came to witness change. Beside Vela stood Captain Rainer, dressed in Earth's finest military uniform. His face was calm, but proud. His mission was over, but something deeper had begun. The chief judge, the same one who had sentenced Elder Varuan, raised a small glowing stone and spoke to the people. "We gather here today to honor the voice that refused to be silenced." In the hand that lifted it back up, Cod cheered. Vela stepped forward, her voice, once weak, now carried across the court. "I was made to crawl in this place. I thought it would be the end of me, but it became the beginning. Not just for me, but for all of us." People listened in silence. Our world was sick with fear and lies, but now we begin to heal. Not with revenge, but with truth, with kindness, and with the courage to protect the weak. A small child held up a sign. "Truth wins." Vela smiled gently. Later, in the quiet of the garden behind the court, Vela and Rainer walked side by side. "You could have gone home already," she said. Rainer looked at the trees around them. "I couldn't, but something here feels unfinished." Vela raised an eyebrow. "You're not turning into a peacekeeper, are you?" He chuckled. "Don't push it." She laughed for the first time in days. "I was thinking," she said, "maybe we could open a new center. A home for children who were hurt. A place where memory is never stolen, only protected." Rainer nodded. "A memory sanctuary." She looked at him. "Would you help me build it?" He didn't hesitate. "I'd be honored." A week passed. The old buildings where the experiments once happened were torn down. In their place, Vela's memory sanctuary began to rise. Children painted the walls. Volunteers brought food, clothes, and stories. Some of the workers were even former soldiers, people who once stood against Vela and now stood beside her. Rainer worked with them, smiling as he lifted heavy beams and taught young ones how to use tools. He was no longer just a soldier. He was part of something greater. One evening, Earth Command sent him a message. Captain Raynor, your actions broke protocol, but your bravery saved lives. Your mission is complete. You may return home. Raynor read the message twice. Then he looked around the sanctuary at the children laughing, the walls glowing with color, and Vela standing beneath the tree, holding a baby in her arms. He tapped his reply. I am already home. Later that night, Vela sat with him on the rooftop, watching the stars. This world still has problems, she said. Raynor nodded. All worlds do. But now we have a chance to fix them, she continued. And maybe teach others how to listen, how to care, how to stand for the voiceless. He looked at her, smiling, and how to crawl through darkness and still rise with light. She turned to him. Thank you, Raynor, for everything. He shook his head. No, thank you for not giving up. They sat there in peace, a human and an alien, no longer strangers, no longer enemies, but friends, bound by pain, courage, and a shared dream. And so, in a world once ruled by silence and shame, a new voice rose, a voice that reminded the galaxy of something powerful, that even when truth is punished, even when hope is forgotten, and even when the world turns away, one person can still stand, one person can still believe, and sometimes all it takes to start a new beginning is one human who refuses to walk away.